and it was just supposed to be an education campaign. They were just going to run in probably 4 or 5 states.
Really?
They had no idea.
They had no idea that there was this many people that actually knew who he was and understood his position and were waiting for a man like him to stand up. So it caught him completely by surprise.
You know what it reminds me a little bit of? It reminds me a little bit of William Henry Harrison. Andrew Jackson was so powerful nobody thought he could be beat. When he was done, he handpicked his vice president, Martin Van Buren, to be president, and he had this enormous alliance of newspapers. The newspapers, remember, had killed his wife, Rachel, because they'd attacked her on when she was married and when she had been divorced, and claimed she was a bigamist and an adulterer, and he kept her from it. So when he won the election, she went to town to buy her dress in Nashville for the inauguration, saw all these newspapers, realized what had happened, and within a few days she was dead. So he hated the media. So he got his own media weapon, this alliance of Jackson newspapers. And they elected his vice president, Martin Van Buren, when he was done. And the Whigs didn't know how he could be beaten. So the solution from the power brokers in the party was, let's have Daniel Webster run as a favorite son in the Northeast, let Henry Clay run as a favorite son out in the West, and we need another favorite son or two. Who could we get? So they go to old William Henry Harrison, who's an old man and a general and retired, and they say, would you please run for president, not to win, but we want to throw it in the House of Representatives, and if you can just carry enough votes to keep Indiana out, you know, Clay will take care of the rest and Daniel Webster takes. So William Henry Harrison ran, and he struck a chord with the American people at the time, especially veterans. Veterans had been abandoned by their government, basically, and he was a one-man veterans administration. And he ended up carrying 7 states and as the favorite son from Indiana, and everybody agreed if Daniel Webster and Henry Clay weren't in the race, he would have been elected president. So for the next 4 years, the country kind of waited like, will this hold? And will William Henry Harrison be president? And he was elected president 4 years later. But so in that sense, I see Ron Paul in the same situation, that he now has this tight, deep believers, tight little group of people. They're not too little. They're big enough to take the Iowa caucus. They're big enough to take the Iowa cavalcade. If he ran for president again, I believe he'd win the Iowa cavalcade and be on a national magazine and be the front runner to win the caucus, and that would put him in the driver's seat. I wish he would.
Would a 3.5-year campaign be unprecedented?
No, actually, with George Herbert Walker Bush in 1984, after Reagan was reelected, I was working full-time then. By 1985, a lot of my work was done. By 1986, with George Herbert Walker Bush, we had done all of his evangelical work. He had met with more than 1,000 of the evangelical Christian leaders in America, one-on-one or in small groups, and we put that baby to rest. So the public doesn't realize how ongoing these presidential things are. As a matter of fact, Ron Paul was at a tremendous disadvantage getting in so late. Running for president is kind of like building a mall. Let's say you're going to build a shopping mall. Let's say you have all the money in the world, and let's say you have all the power in the world, so you can get the zoning board to do what you got to meet Thursday and call them into special session, and you have big floodlights set up, so you got crews working at night, crews working at the day. It's still a multi-million-dollar project, and if you have all the power in the world, it still takes a little bit of time to build a mall. And running for president is the same thing. Doesn't matter how popular you are. That's why Colin Powell, some of these people, they do so well in the polls. And people say, well, why don't they get in and run? Why don't John Connolly in the last minute, they said, look what you're doing in the polls, get in and run. You can't. There's too many things that have to be done. So Ron Paul has a lot of those little things done. He knows how to do them, knows what to do, and he's well ahead of the game. Most people who've run for president have had to run and lose several times before they ever had a chance of winning. And I'd like to see him run again.